Well, hello there. This is TSG Live Talking Trains. This is a monthly show where my friend Murph and I will have a guest on the show to talk about something. And today, our guest is Tom Tomasello. Thank you for coming.
Hello, thank you.
And Tom will be talking about the National Narrow Gauge Convention from Pittsburgh. You went and had a great time.
Yeah, I sure did.
And yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. This is our first show. And as our first show this year, we're actually, if this is working correctly, we're actually streaming to Facebook and to YouTube. So welcome to both platforms, viewers. I see Jeremy is saying hello from Facebook. Hello, Jeremy. And everybody else talking so far is talking from YouTube in our chat. During the show, if you get a question, you can type it in the chat there and we'll try to get to it. And yeah, we have a really nice show for you today. Now, before we get started in earnest with the narrow gauge conversation, I want to bring on our friend Seth Newman, who has a little information about an event that's coming up at the end of this month. And really, it's bridging January and February. So let me bring Seth up and we'll talk about that. And I believe there he is. Hi, Seth. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great, John. Murph, Tom, good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to be seen. So you wanted to come on and talk about what we refer to affectionately as the SIG meet. That's the Layout Design and Operations Weekend, right? That's happening at the end of this month.
That's correct. And we're going to be holding it for, the in-person people at the California State Railroad Museum, which is a fantastic venue and always worth the trip. So, the key thing for Talking Trains viewers is we'll be live streaming the main clinic, and I guess we're going to have not a design challenge, but a consulting review and a panel on Saturday. So real quickly, the whole meet runs from about, anytime you want to show up at the museum on Friday. And we'll have a tour of the museum guided by former NMRA President Charlie Getz. And you're free to wander around the museum by yourself, as part of the price of the in-person meet. And then Saturday, we'll have clinics, we'll have a switching challenge. John has been working on ways that we can present that live. And we'll have 4 clinics and a panel. For those who are in person in Sacramento, we've got a dinner at, I believe it's called La Terraza. It's a Mexican restaurant in Old Town within easy walking distance to the museum. So barring a torrential rain, which always seems to come on SIG Day.
It did last year.
Yeah. It'll be an easy walk. There's a variety of hotels close by if you're not from Sacramento. And that evening we'll have some layout tours. And we'll have a small selection of operations layouts on Sunday. But again, the main thing for the Talking Trains audience is the live stream on Saturday, and we'd be delighted to have you join us.
Oh, right. And on that note, I should mention that we've worked diligently to come up with a way to cover this entire event virtually. And one of the hallmarks of our virtual events is the fact that there's a lot of social interaction in addition to really great content, which is streaming live right from the venue. And the best part, I think, about it is that anyone can join from anywhere in the world with a internet connection. So it's open to anybody. You don't have to be a member of anything or anything like that. And it's cheap. It's like $15 or something. And these aren't put on to make money. It just covers the cost of, what we incur to make it happen. So there's no one getting rich off of this, right?
No. And, again, the museum is most generous in terms of providing their facilities and opening it up to the in-person people as part of the package. So, I mean, it's well supported. We really try hard not to incur unnecessary expense,
Yep.
keep it railroady venue, yada, yada, yada. But again, if you're not local or can't make it all day, by all means, get on your computer and join us. We've got
Yeah.
usually a team of moderators to collect any comments and questions from the chat and direct them to the speakers at the appropriate time. So, it's almost as good as being there.
Yeah.
And very convenient, of course, if you can't travel or have other things you need to do at home.
Right. And the website for that, in case anybody's interested, I believe I put a link to it in our description for this show already, but I'll tell you what it is verbally, and I'll double check to make sure I had the link added to it. It's bayldops.com. See, our wonderful secret producer just put it up there. If you click on that, it'll take you to the page that shows you the program, and there's a link for registration, to register to come in person, which we'd love to see you there. And then there's a link to register for the virtual event, which again is open to everybody in the world. So,
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Seth, you had something else. So for people who don't know, Seth also runs something called Model Railroad Control Systems. And if you watch this channel, you will recognize that name because he's been sponsoring the podcast on this channel for the past, 3 or 4 months. And you got something in recently that you're very excited about. So I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that.
Oh, well, thanks, John. This is very cool. And I mean, it's literally hot off the press. One of our main product lines is switch machines, little motors that operate the switches on your layout remotely or from panels on controls on the fascia. And we've been having a lot of success with that. In fact, I'd say the biggest problem is we sometimes can't get enough as fast as we'd like. Anyway, shipment came in today, which is big news for me because that means I get to spend all day filling the back orders. But we also got the first shipment of a new motor, which is called the DP16. And this is similar to our DP10, which is a DCC controlled motor. And you can see it has the same mounting footprint as the Tortoise by Circuitron. So very easy, to try one out in your existing scheme. And what's very cool about this is it can be controlled both by DCC and by a local DC toggle switch on the fascia. And you can see this little box over here. It's a little hard to do backwards. It's like looking in a mirror, but you can wire that up to a local toggle switch. And we're pretty excited about that because a lot of people would like to do this sort of dual mode control. So, if we don't wear out our welcome here, we'll come back and do a little bit more extensive new product focus with John in the near future, where we talk about the entire DCC controlled product line. But, it's a great motor. It's got a decoder built in. And I believe the list price is going to be, let me look at my cheat sheet. Oh, come on, where is it? About $26.99 for one motor, including a DCC decoder. So, very simple, hook it up to your DCC system, give it an address, and away you go. We'll be really excited about this, and we'll have a little bit more data and some configuration examples. But anyway, you're the first to know. As I say, we've had these for 3 hours, and I'm expecting it to be very popular. Thanks for the opportunity to describe it, John.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Murph here. I really am interested in this. I've just installed a couple DP10s on my layout, and the installation is extremely simple. I had everything set up to just plop in a Tortoise, and well, the screw pattern is exactly the same on the DP10. put it right in. I didn't need to run through a switch it to get the DCC wires into the controls itself. The control actually has a pluggable thing on the side with screw terminals, which makes it really easy to connect up to your DCC system. And then I started putting a couple into my engine terminal. And I was like, boy, it'd be really nice if I could connect a panel mounted push button to this to actually get it to switch. And here you are talking about it. So it's almost like, you guys must have been reading my mind.
And you're a security guy. I thought you'd have that locked down better.
You would think so. Actually, I'm planning on doing a lot of panels with old used iPads and phones and that kind of stuff. But this will be really handy in this particular situation. I really appreciate that. So, okay, let's see here. Where did he say for that other thing?
Right there.
Right here.
No, the one in Seth's picture.
There we go.
Yeah.
John had to take leave for a few minutes. So, okay. The other thing is, again, for LD ops, remember, you can engage with that anywhere in the world, which is, I think, a really unique opportunity here. The virtual event really kind of opens this up so you can become exposed to people outside of your normal area of experience. You can, if you're on the East Coast or all the way around the world, you can actually engage with that. The other great thing about it is I'll sometimes go to a convention. By about day 2, I'm like, I want to go home and work on my layout. Well, now I can work on my layout and I can attend the event. Everything is great. So thanks a lot. I'm glad you guys are doing this. So
thank you.
Yeah. Let's see here. Boy.
Put the pointer down on you. Yeah.
Where? Right here?
Yep. And then when you...
Okay. I will see you later, Seth. Take care.
Thank you all, and we'll see you at the SIG meet virtually.
Okay. Okay. Hang tight. Okay. So anyway, next we're going to have Tom talk about the narrow gauge convention. And my experience with Tom is I've opted with him several times at one of the local layouts, and he's a great guy to operate trains with. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about your experiences in Pennsylvania, actually seeing all the things you experienced there, the various real railfan experiences and some models. So if we can get moving here to...
Yeah, before we start the presentation, just, by way of introduction, I'm a narrow gauge modeler. I model in ON30. Been a modeler and a rail fan for most of my adult life. Actually going back to being a kid. I did the usual journey, where I built an HO layout somewhere around junior high on a 4x8, and then gave it up for other pursuits. And
I know those kind of pursuits, been there.
Yeah. And then picked it up shortly after getting married. And my wife and I went to a mall, and she wanted to go look at a dress store, and I don't want to go in there. And there's a toy store over there, and they had a whole model railroad section. And picked up a magazine, and there it goes, totally it kindled the fire.
How long ago was that?
That would be like 1981.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When you restarted.
Yeah, that's when it restarted. So I got interested in narrow gauge early on. I like the smaller trains. I like the whole feel of the backwoods narrow gauge thing. And I had an HO model layout in my home. And I went to go visit Jim Vale's layout up in the Santa Cruz area, and was chatting with Jim. And this was back in 2004. And Jim said, well, you're going to the convention. It's here in Santa Clara. And I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. He said, well, if you like narrow gauge, you should go. So I ended up going and had a great time. And I'm walking the floor. Now, mind you, I'm an HO, right? And I see this Broadway Limited ON30 consolidation locomotive, steam engine sitting right there. I had no reason whatsoever to buy this thing, but I had the money burning a hole in my pocket, bought it, took it home, sat it on a shelf literally for about a year, just admiring it. And one day it hit me. It's like, oh, this is DC and DCC, and ON30 is the same gauge as HO track. So what would happen if I just took this engine and stuck it on my HO layout in the yard where there's plenty of room?
Right.
Well, the minute I did, it instantly came to life. It had sound.
Uh-huh.
My HO layout didn't have sound. And I cracked the throttle and it just moved like a watch. You know, it's just like perfect, very smooth. The heft of the engine. And well, needless to say, 6 months later, the HO layout was gone. I began my first ON30 layout. I'm now currently on my second ON30 layout.
Huh. Okay.
All right. So that's my history with narrow gauge. I've been to about 5 narrow gauge conventions over the years, including the one in Denver last year. And when the Pittsburgh convention was announced, I thought, Pittsburgh. I don't really think of Pittsburgh as a narrow gauge town, certainly not like Colorado. But then I remembered, wait a minute, the East Broad Top Railroad is sort of within striking distance. And that's been on my bucket list for years. And sure enough, they offered a prototype tour pre-convention. It was the day before the convention actually started. And I thought, oh, this will be my chance to see the East Broad Top layout. So with that, we'll begin the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Let's
are.
see here. There's that. And we're going to go to there.
Oh, makes it nice. Okay, now I can go ahead and start flipping slides. That's an East Broad Top locomotive, by the way, number 12. That one is currently not operable. But it is slated to become operable. They'll be working on that. So they had it on display, and I thought it looked so great there. I just had to get a shot of it. So East Broad Top Railroad, a trip back in time. This is a quick little map of the layout of the East Broad Top. The original trackage, the section in green there is the in-service section. And during my time there, I traveled over that entire section. We started out by going north to Colgate Grove and then came back to Orbisana, Rock Hill Furnace, which was sort of the center, the headquarters, if you will, of the railroad. There's a shop there, of course, a depot, turntable, and Roundhouse. And then we traveled south towards Pogue and came back. This is a video I took. The locomotive that was supposed to be pulling us on our trip was locomotive. We'll need that one there. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it's this.
Oh, there we are. Yeah. Locomotive number 16. This is inoperable, obviously, steam locomotive. And I'm going to be quiet because he's going to blow the whistle in just a moment. Yeah, gotta love that. What happened is they weren't able to use that, utilize that locomotive for the trip because the bearings were overheating. But they said what they could do is fire it up, run it back and forth across the yard for a few lucky guys that got cab rides.
Oh, nice.
Which unfortunately I wasn't one, but I did get a video of it.
You got a video of someone else getting a cab ride.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right. Well, that's
Kind
almost
of
as good.
voyeuristic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, vicarious enjoyment,
That's
right?
right. Yes.
Here's a close-up or a solo shot of number 16. Gorgeous locomotives. All the locomotives on the East Broad Top were Mikados. That is a 282 wheel arrangement. Narrow gauge, pretty large for narrow gauge.
Yeah, it is. Did that limit the curvature? of tracks?
I'm imagining it did, but when you look at the profile, this isn't a railroad that's going around a lot of super tight corners. This is not Colorado narrow gauge railroading. It's more like Eastern United
Right.
States. Yeah, and there was a lot of climbing involved, though.
That's
Because
interesting.
we're
yeah.
talking Appalachians here.
Right.
So that probably was their impetus for building it as narrow gauge. Also got, the East Broad Top has a real quick, just how the East Broad Top got started. It was built to haul coal to a connection with the Pennsylvania Railroad. And they built this railroad. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
You went off the tracks.
I went off the
Things
tracks.
happen, yeah.
They built this railroad and it operated for years. And at some point, they closed the furnaces, they closed the mines.
Right.
Coal was in less demand, and they closed the railroad. But it's very much like the Nevada Northern Railroad in Ely, Nevada. It was a situation where they literally locked the doors and walked away, leaving the entire infrastructure, including all of the locomotives, all of the rolling stock. Some years later, the railroad was purchased by people that wanted to preserve it, and it went through several hands. Currently, the Friends of the East Broad Top are in charge of the restoration. And they've been systematically restoring the buildings, stabilizing them, foundations and everything.
So they never junked out the railroad? They never
did. The tracks, in fact,
so everything's still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot like Nevada Northern.
Yeah, a lot like
That's
Nevada
great.
Northern. And they are systematically restoring the main line. Currently, they're heading south. Ultimately, I believe they want to head north, at least as far as they're able to go. So
how much of a run do they have on it?
Currently, it's about a 4-mile run.
Oh, okay.
But their aspirations are large.
I'm going to say that judging from that map, it looked like it goes about, 120 miles or something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a video of the shop. The shop is totally restored and working. It's a steam operated shop, but the steam boiler hasn't been quite brought up to spec yet. So they're operating it on compressed air, but all of the overhead belts and stuff are all working. So let's take a look at this thing in operation.
It makes good noise too.
Yeah, it does.
Boy, all the open belts and rods and everything else, that's not OSHA approved.
Oh, not really.
That's amazing.
You don't get to see this kind of stuff too often.
I love they used to use this all for power takeoffs for driving even more machinery.
Right. And most of the machinery has been restored too and works.
Wow.
My understanding, Tom, is that this is one of a very few shops like this that actually has all that stuff. We have a shop out here on the West Coast at Railtown 1897.
That's correct. Been
right.
there.
That has all of the stuff there. Now, I don't know that they've run those belt driven machine tools, in the past 40 or 50 years, but I do know that it's a shop much like this where, and I think it's the only one out here on the west side of the country that has that kind of infrastructure.
The only other place I've seen anything like this was a recreation at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C.
But now you've seen the one at Railtown 1897.
I have.
But how does it compare? I mean, obviously it doesn't, you can't go and see this at Railtown because I don't think they ever run it. But all the stuff is there, isn't it? Aren't all the belts in place still?
At Railtown?
Yeah, I don't remember looking up to the ceiling and really checking that out. But I thought I remember seeing belts coming down.
Last time I was at Railtown, I kind of recall seeing. I think I did see. I certainly saw all the overhead belts, and I saw quite a few of the machines. This shop here at the East Broad Top is about maybe almost 3 times as big as the Railtown or the Sierra Railroad shops.
Right.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my grandfather had a metal lathe downstairs, and it was run by a motor with a leather belt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was quite the thing. And I still have all my fingers.
Well, that's telling.
Yeah.
That's one of the things people used to say was you could tell the guys that worked on the railroad by how many fingers they had on their hands.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is fairly dangerous to work around this stuff. You've got to be cognizant of what can happen.
Yeah. Well, at one time, it was listed as the most dangerous profession in the United States.
Right.
Another piece of rolling stock that was rolling was their rail bus, the M1. This was another ride that they drew lottery for, and I happened to get on this one. So I did ride this thing. I spent the entire ride standing in the open doorway there.
Wow.
Which was open on both sides, which allowed me to see out both sides very clear. Plus, it gave me a good view of the cab.
Yes.
Which I thought was fascinating.
It's one of the problems sometimes riding on the train is you don't get to see the train.
Exactly. And this is a shot of the cab. You can see the motorman up there on the right-hand side, and he's sitting right next to the engine.
This is great.
I'm guessing earplugs are mandatory.
Or you go, a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But it was kind of fun, sort of as it were, looking over his shoulder at the track.
Bet.
So that's kind of a unique view when you're riding the train. You get to see left, you get to see right, and you get to see out the front. This is another video I took of a run-by of the ride that I did take. And this was pulled. This one right here.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll roll this. There it is. This was pulled by their center cab diesel.
Full diesel, huh?
This was originally constructed as a 50-ton locomotive, narrow gauge, and a subsequent purchaser upped the power to 50, upped the weight to 55.
Interesting, the hinge point between the two trucks and the engine.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's almost a hinge point between the two trucks and the engine itself.
Yeah, we'll take a closer look at it in the next slide.
Okay.
Disclaimer, that's not Murph on the back of the caboose.
That's right. It's my doppelganger, I think.
Let's see here. Remove that, right? Oh, go back to here.
Actually, that's beginning, right? Oh, we're sliding.
There we are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something between the two trucks there.
Oh, yeah, it does look like that. Almost like sort of like a transmission connection.
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually is or if it just kind of looks that way, but yeah, that's their M7. Apparently they like M's. At the East Broad top, moving along. This is just a little switcher tucked away. I happen to know that's the M4. This is their shop switcher that they use to move rolling stock around. Before they purchased this, about 15 years ago or so, they used to use that M1 rail bus as a shop switcher. Imagine that.
Yeah. It's a little bit much to be hauling around. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And this is a shot in the shed there of the president's private car.
Wow.
And I just thought that ornate
Scroll work on
scroll work was
ends.
just worth taking a shot at. So this is the kind of opulent luxury you get to ride on when you tour your railroad. So I think that's pretty much it for the East Broad Top. I took a lot more photos, but I didn't want it to drag on too long here. In closing for that segment, I would just say if you ever get a chance, it's worth it. It turned out the narrow gauge convention was held at the Doubletree Green Tree Hotel in Pittsburgh. And it was about a 3-hour bus ride from the hotel to the Rock Hill Furnace or Orbison. It went by both names.
Wow. Okay.
The center of the road. Very much worth it, though.
Right.
If you have an interest in narrow gauge, first of all, and if you're interested in trains, period, very much worth seeing. In addition to, there's a couple more prototype tours I attended, but we're going to take a little move over to the layout and module tours. I wrote what narrow gauge modelers are capable of. It's arguable. The world is filled with fine standard gauge modelers, but proportionately, it may be arguable that narrow gauge modelers have a tendency to be a little more above, which you'll see for yourself in a moment. This is a video of the East Broad Top now. This is an East Broad Top sectional layout that was on display in the hotel. And I thought after seeing the real deal, let's kind of see what the model looks like. On this module, locomotive number 12 is functional. Gorgeous model.
That really is nice.
And, I believe this was ON3, by the way.
Oh, so they had to hand away all the track then?
Well, you can get ON3 track.
Oh,
They
okay.
probably did handle it. Just looking at the model work.
Yeah.
Something I liked about this is that big structure behind the train is a coal dock. They would truck in coal, and then it's hard to see in this view, but yeah, you see it a little better in this view. You can see there's hoppers underneath,
Right.
and they would dump the coal down into the hoppers.
Directly from the truck.
Directly from the truck, yeah. And I thought that structure was fascinating and nicely modeled as well.
Oh,
Now, this is a picture.
there's the truck or a truck.
This is the picture that I just had to get this shot. All right, fair enough. It's a static model, but I think it looks so cool. You can actually see the coal dumping out of the dump truck into the hopper.
It's funny, even though it's a static picture, you can feel the movement of the coal dumping out of there.
Totally can. I'm guessing they probably used some plastic wrap or something and then impregnated it with a bunch of coal to make it look like it's coal falling in.
Right.
But you can see how the coal pile is on the right side is a little more heaped up, and then they're loading up the one on the left.
Right. Yeah. It's filling in.
It's an action shot, really.
Yeah.
It's an action shot. Who's to know it wasn't actually moving?
That's right. I also like that. You go back a second.
Sure, absolutely.
Look at the spillover on the other side of the car.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of those things that people forget about. So it's very nicely done.
Yeah. Good reminder. I've got an ore dump on my layout, and I need to put some spillage around the hopper cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a detail that a lot of modelers miss is things like ballast and messes around, dump sites like that or transloading sites like that.
Yeah.
There's always something, right? There's always some stuff scattered around. And I think a lot of people miss that. And I mentioned the ballast on the track because I've seen ballasted track where you look at it and go, this is obviously a model because track never looks that like the ballast stops where the grass starts. So obviously, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's too perfect. It's too groomed.
Yes.
And if you look at the active ballasting on almost anything, nobody's really like making sure it forms a straight line at the edge of the ballast.
Yeah.
They kind of make sure it's just, not in the way of the wheels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, or a scene like this, right? If you look at this, it's like, oh, okay, well, this dirt on this hill in the foreground there, just to the right, I guess, of the curved track.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Look how varied that is.
Yeah.
That's realistic. Look at all the clutter around those little shacks.
It is.
I'm assuming that.
And it's a hard thing for modelers to do. You kind of spend all of your time getting the model assembled and everything painted and all that kind of stuff. And if you go back with an airbrush or some chalks or whatever, and you mussy it up, and you sometimes just use a slightly off tint to the building or something like that, just not all over, but just in where the shadows should be, or just where the water is, like wash things out the right way. It is part of weathering, but it's also just a part of the texture of the way paint works over time. And I think it's and the way nature works over time. If you look at the side of this hill, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
it's an important thing to complete.
Something else, just quickly. Sorry, don't
No, it's
mean to
okay.
take over your thing here, but
It's
look,
all right.
I'm just kind of marveling at the detail in the shot. Look at all. See where there's a diverging route. There's the turnout,
Mhm.
and then there's the main line. I'm assuming is the one on the left. And
I would
look at
think
all the stuff in between the tracks. I've seen people's layouts where they put a tree there, and it's like no railroad would ever have a tree in between the tracks like that, like I've seen on other models.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. They don't do that.
It'd be a maintenance nightmare to
It would
begin
be.
with.
It would be. I mean, talk about brush cutting every week,
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm looking and I can't tell from the picture what that stuff is. Is that foliage or is it junk, like clutter?
I think
looks-
it might be clutter.
It looks like
real
clutter.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, that's what you'd expect to see.
Yeah, that's what you. This is
Right?
a mining display layout, and this is obviously a gritty little in the hills mining town.
Yeah. Whoever did this, I missed that if you said it, but whoever did this did a really good job of making this.
Yeah, I didn't get
Yeah.
a name on this one.
Oh, well,
This is in SN2, however.
SN2.
Yeah, this is another display layout at the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
this isn't a home layout.
That's a cool diorama.
Yeah, it is. I have a few more shots of this same diorama from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way this shows the head frame detail as
Yeah.
well as the tipple there.
Look at that crawler.
I was going to say the crawler in the
Yeah.
foreground. Quite cool.
The barrels and crates on that dock. This is whoever did this did a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah, this certainly was well worth documenting. And here's the final shot. Kind of the engine service facilities. You can see the water tank made out of an old tender. And you can see I don't have a pointer, but
Oh, all the way off to the right there. I see the tender now. It's off to the right near
Yeah.
the top. Yeah.
and then go across the tracks and you see a bucket Kohler.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the dethroned boxcar is a tool shed.
Yeah. These are details that I think a lot of modelers would approach a scene like this looking for a structure instead of using a boxcar, for example,
Mm-hmm.
where in real life they would use everything. So this is that makes this scene very believable to me. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of buy-in from me because it's totally believable,
The art of the mess.
right?
Yeah.
This is another display layout in the hotel. I thought this was cool. It had that, what do they call them? Pedestal crane, is it? I think. Sitting on a barge. And the tire details, the way it sits in the water.
Yeah.
These look pretty cool. Same layout. I included this shot for a particular reason. This obviously is a fishing vessel. My layout, my ON30 layout, has a pier scene. Are these permanent layouts in the hotel? No, these were just for the event. These were brought in. So these are all traveling. A lot of them are modules. But as I was saying, my layout has a pier scene. And I wanted a fishing vessel to be tied up next to it. Now, while I'm a model railroad guy, my older brother is a ship modeler.
That's convenient.
Yeah, that is convenient. And so I tasked him with building a fishing vessel to go alongside my pier, and got online to find something that looked cool. And I came upon this boat called the Western Flyer. Amazing looking fishing vessel. It was my railroad is sent in 1940, and this boat was constructed in 1938.
Sweet.
So it fits.
Yep.
I tasked my brother with building it. Well, he was a very, very gregarious fellow. And we did a little research and discovered that this boat called the Western Flyer was being restored up in Port Townsend, Washington. So he reached out to the restoration
Oh, wow.
people. I think he might have donated a little money to the cause as well, but he schmoozed too. And they ended up sending the plans for the original boat. They even sent wood from the original boat.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, man.
And my brother constructed a gorgeous model. I don't have a photo. Well, we're not doing my layout here, so that there wouldn't be a photo of it. Someday when we do my layout,
We
you
need
get
to
see
have a
it.
show and tell.
Oh, maybe. Well, hey, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
We now have an excuse to have you come back on
Oh,
That's
to
right.
do a little slideshow of your layout. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll eventually do a layout, a video tour like what TSG Multimedia is famous for now.
yeah.
At some point. One question I have for you, and I don't remember if I asked you this when I was at your layout looking at it when you were telling me that same story you just told, but
Right.
since the ship would have been new on your layout because it was only 2 years old,
Correct.
he's going to make it look new, right?
Yes, it does look new. Well,
Excellent.
that's kind of how he rolls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But-
weathering's not quite in his. Ship modelers are a different breed. Their goal is to build a pristine ship. As a matter of fact, I almost fought him to build me a waterline version of it, and he flat out refused.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
So it's got a full hull.
how's he going to feel when you cut it in half? When you cut the hull in half to put it on the layout?
Yeah, I'm not going to cut it in half. I'm going to dig a hole in the
Right.
water
In the gap.
and set it in there. He did. I will say this. He was very kind enough to provide me a mock-up
A
of the
template?
hole that's a water line.
Oh,
that's
perfect.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
So he said, you can use this to cut your hole. He said, but that model is going to have a complete hole.
That's great.
So I guess that answers my question. He'd be heartbroken and devastated if you cut his,
We don't
his
do
model's hull in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Wouldn't want to do that. One last thing to say about the Western Flyer, and then we'll get back to Pittsburgh. The Western Flyer, some of you may perhaps recognize the name. This is the vessel that was taken out by John Steinbeck and Doc Ricketts. They sailed it down the coast of California out of Monterey to what was called the Sea of Cortez back then. We now know that as the Gulf of California. And Steinbeck wrote his only nonfiction novel, it wasn't a novel, nonfiction book called The Sea of Cortez.
Huh.
And he wrote that chronicling the journeys that he and Doc Ricketts did in the Western Flyer.
That's really neat.
So with that in mind, this is why I found the fishing vessel particularly interesting.
I like the trestle in the background too. If that were an operating layout, I'd get a kick out of seeing
The
it.
trestle over
And being
water,
serviced. Yeah.
very, very Maine-like.
Yeah.
I really enjoy these kind of scenes where you have a maritime element.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of a layout tour video that I shot with the late Howard Lloyd up in Los Gatos. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
if you ever got to see that.
I
in
did see his
Did
layout.
you see it in person?
I did.
It was such a nice layout. And, it's one in a series really of layouts that I was really lucky enough to document, including the Jim Vale layout, right?
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
they're no longer here. And I feel really privileged to be able to document these layouts that are no
Yeah.
longer with us.
And we're really lucky that they're basically all available online.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
live on.
Yep. For free. Right. Unless someone would like to donate on Patreon.
That would be nice.
Here, I have something all about that I just remembered I can put up here. Look at this.
There you go.
There we go. Please proceed, Tom. We'll leave that on for a minute.
Hey,
we'll change it in a minute so people know who you are.
it was important to pause for the cause, as they say.
Yeah.
Well, I never self-promote, or I'm so bad at it that I want to sometimes. And hey,
yeah, I have to nudge him.
he really does.
Murph's found his calling.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right. There's another display layout. As you can see, these were just amazing. I had to get some shots. This is the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes. I'm sure most people know, but in case they don't, the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes was a Maine-based model railroad that had a 2-foot gauge. And this particular scene is showing a standard gauge crossing 2 narrow gauge tracks.
Sorry, I'm just being a smart ass with Heath on here. Oh, did I spell it wrong again?
Yeah, you spelled donut wrong.
Hey, you know what? People know what I'm talking about. Thank you, Heath. I can get a donut hole now.
I'm going to bring it up on Facebook and razz you incessantly
What about this misspelling?
about it misspelling things.
Yeah, Mr. Grammar.
Love it.
Hey, Lynn McCurdy just put something in too. Don't blame Heath. Oh, don't let him.
Can't let blame
Heath outdo
outdo
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we can get a competition
Thanks,
going
Lynn.
here. Yeah.
And we're going to be rolling in donuts, guys.
Right.
Here we go.
Maybe we can get a reverse auction going. Hey, who can outdo Lynn?
So these have all been displays, right?
Yeah, these are all display modules. Very small, maybe small layouts.
Yeah.
I have another shot from the.
Can you imagine doing all the homes on the hill involved in that one? Wow.
Lynn outdid himself. Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
That's twice. Hey, I just thought of something, and this is something that I hope you mention this to the people putting on the show. These displays are really top notch. Like, this is something whoever put this together did a really good job bringing in stuff that's really, really worth looking at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is this?
It should work. Yeah. Let's try it this way.
Oh,
Is that what you're trying to do?
That's what I was trying to do.
All right.
This is that same Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes display module. Couple of things. First of all, the modeling. There's
Top
a
notch.
boat slip there, some water. The other thing that caught my attention is the controllers for the switches.
Yeah.
Those lever controllers.
Yeah. So that's an actual possibly operating module.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I think they actually had trains moving on it.
I found, guys, that narrow gauge modelers tend to, well, let me put it this way. Other, standard gauge, HO scale, N scale, whatever, you have a really big, I guess, dynamic range of how skilled the modeler is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everything from just, putting tracks down on a piece of wood to stuff like this.
Yeah.
But my experience is that narrow gauge modelers tend to be, there's a much smaller dynamic range and it's all really good. And I don't know if that's because to do narrow gauge, you have to be a really good builder because a lot of stuff just isn't, rail infrastructure isn't available as kits or whatever, or you want to do scenes that aren't just full of kits because then it'll look like everybody else's
Mhm.
scene that has kits in it. Like that boat slip. You can't, I don't think you can buy that anywhere.
But a lot of the things that I've seen for narrow gauge seem like model railroading concentrate.
Yes.
It's not like a big Tehachapi layout where you might have a structure every several scale miles. It's everything is in there. If you do a 6x6 narrow gauge thing, it's going to have a bunch of buildings and a bunch of little details all over the place because that's really what you expect in this flavor of model rail. It's really infectious to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to admire the modeling in here. It's amazing.
It's inspiring. Like I see stuff like, well, there's kind of two reactions within me. And the two reactions are, oh, I'd really like to build something that looks like that. that's the positive reaction. The negative reaction is I might as well just give up because I feel like I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah, but
Because look how good it is.
didn't Jack just say the only way to get to do that is to start doing that?
Of course.
Something
yeah.
along those lines.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, speaking to that, I know that the first time I ever scratch built anything was for the when I started the narrow gauge model. I never even conceived. I think I kit bashed in HO, but I thought scratch building, that's rarefied air, and I may never get there. And then when I got into ON30, well, first of all, the size and the mathematics.
That's much easier.
I
Right?
mean, that alone was empowering. It's like, 4 foot to an inch. Now that's easy to figure out.
It's better than 80 divide by 87.1. Right?
Absolutely true. And things are a little bit larger. Structural details like rafter tails all of a sudden become a factor.
Right.
Before you can get by without it in HO.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, about modeling in a larger scale, I've learned from people who do it, is that the larger you go, the more details you must have, because if you don't, it won't look right.
Yeah.
So that kind of, if you think about it, forces someone like this thing, what we're looking at right now, whoever built that was forced to add a lot of detail, because if it hadn't been there, it wouldn't look right.
Yeah.
So,
Just looking at this photo, I'm looking at the boat on the lower right, the hole in the hull with just the right planks missing. And you're like, yeah, okay.
it looks like the
Wow.
SS Minnow.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I think they got that from Gilligan's Island.
But the hole's on the wrong side. I think the ship was oriented in the other direction on the beginning of Gilligan's Island. All the people watching who haven't seen Gilligan's Island was like, what is this guy talking about?
Secret Producer asks, are modules a big thing in the narrow gauge community? Hard for me to say. Most of the narrow gauge modelers I know, and I don't really know that many, but they're layout based. But I know every time I go to a narrow gauge convention, I see a lot of modules in the convention. So I think there's a lot of guys at home hacking away on modules. There have been a couple of outstanding. Was it Yosemite Shortline? I think was one, which was a sort of a group effort made up of modules. And there's another one.
I know what you're talking about. It's the CCC, the California Central Coast. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And did you know some of the people from the Yosemite Shortline are also they're both, right? And actually, since you mentioned it, I want to comment on that, because recently, I think it was last November or December, this is another example of being privileged to go see Yosemite Shortline. It was set up in a cabinet maker shop for a layout tour video, because they're retiring it. It's not going to show up anymore.
Right.
So we documented that, and it's going to be coming out as another layout tour on this channel at some point later this year.
Good.
And also related to that, this past weekend, we went and documented Frank Markovich's, I think it's ON3 layout.
Oh,
up in
I think it's ON30 actually.
It's ON3.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, up in yeah, no, it's okay. Up in Menlo, or not Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, talk about a nice. And again, he's a narrow gauge modeler, right? ON3, and he has a little town scene, and it's just stunning. And again, it's going to be gone. He's moving like within the next 2 or 3 weeks. He's moving out to Modesto or someplace out in the valley.
Yeah.
So he called me up or sent me an email or something recently and said, hey, I'm going to be moving. Do you want to come document this? And it's been on my radar for really a few years now, because Frank has a very good reputation as being a very good modeler. He's been a master model railroader for a long time. And so I'm like, yeah, I think we should document it, especially if it's going to be gone. So we did, and had a great time and saw a really great railroad. Sorry, it's kind of an aside, but I want to mention it because this is content that's going to be coming up on the channel this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you should mention. Plus, I know Frank. He's a friend,
Mhm.
the fellow musician. Frank's a guitar player.
Right.
I'm a
He-
keyboard player.
Right. And your name came up when we were shooting the video.
Really?
Oh yeah, we had a great time talking all kinds of bad things about you,
Oh,
Tom.
good. I'm honored.
Yeah, right. No, but and the other thing about Frank that is pretty cool is he's a huge West Side fan, right? West Side Lumber Company.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's been running the West Side reunion
Union.
event.
That's right.
That's an annual event that we've covered here on the channel a number of times now. He's been running that for decades,
Mhm.
and we're looking forward to going to that later this year up in Sonora.
Yeah,
So-
right with you on that one.
Right, that's another place where we see you all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see. Maybe let's move. All right. So I think this is the last one of that same layout. This structure was just so amazing. I had to get 2 shots of it. There's the one on the left would be the roadside shot, and the one on the right's the track side. And it has a quintessential narrow gauge, standard gauge, side by side boxcar thing going on.
Dual,
Um,
and it looks like it's dual gauge track down there too.
yeah, I think that is dual gauge track, which makes sense.
And is that like the outline for a neon sign up top?
It's something that's
I don't think it's neon.
Yeah,
okay.
it
It's-
wouldn't be on the track
I
side,
would-
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. But the letters are like made of wood.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
in
that's
the fiction of
fascinating model work,
that
yeah.
in the fiction of that railroad, they spent a lot of money on that sign. Some craftsman cut out all those
Yeah.
letters and affixed it, but it looks pretty cool.
Well, that's another thing though, that's one of these details, right? It's a dilapidated building
Mhm.
where a lot of guys or gals would be inclined to just build it and paint it and look pretty, or put weathering that, at least to my eye, would not be believable. This looks like a shrunken down actual building. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
again, the level of skill in these displays is just really off the charts.
Skill and courage.
Yeah, right.
And you-
Imagine building that and then going to weather it. I'd be afraid to mess it up, you know?
And you can tell that the owners of those in Montgomery Transfer and Storage there, at one time certainly had a lot of money, or maybe they still do in the era of that railroad. There's a clock tower,
Right.
right? How many clock towers do you put up?
Yeah. That's
You know,
not a cheap thing
warehouses.
to put on a warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like that sort of banner display. I don't know what it is. Signs. I can't tell because I don't see that well, but the black, the four,
strings.
The
Yeah.
vertical,
the vertical
signs.
signage. Yeah.
Yeah,
On the building on the right side, they're black, right? There's 4 black pillars
right.
Yeah.
on the face with the A-frame. And that's just, again, it's one of those things where they're not perfect. You can tell they're weathered. They've been on the building for a long time, whatever they are.
Yeah,
It looks
Yeah.
like that distressed signage, right? That Jim Vale actually had a lot of that on his layout.
yeah, he sure did. Yeah.
Cool.
That is something.
Let's move on down the road. Here's a couple of shots I took from now this is a layout in a home, the Black Log and Shade Gap Eastern, HON3 layout. Excuse me, I believe this was actually ON30, ON18.
Oh, 30.
Yeah. So this is my scale. These are my people. This layout was put together as a freelanced connection with the East Broad Top Railroad. And I thought the ore tip along the right was kind of intriguing. And then a shot of the engine facilities.
Yeah.
This was put together by a gentleman by the name of Vagel Keller. And
Sorry.
that's okay. Appreciate it. Thanks. Here's another shot. This is a different layout. I just looked at this and thought, wow, what a bucolic countryside. So I had to write that in. This railroad is called the Shade Gap Railroad. Now, this is HON3. And this one is also a freelance railroad, but the fiction here is this railroad connects the East Broad Top Railroad with the Tuscarora Valley Railroad. Basically, those two railroads, more or less, this is really a gross generalization, but basically those railroads are sort of parallel with each other.
Okay.
And so the Shade Gap Railroad here connected them. And like the dirt road there. I thought that was cool. There's another shot of the Shade Gap Railroad. This railroad, by the way, is early 1900s. Blast furnace there on the left. That's a pretty cool model of that. And the blast furnace is fed by the coke ovens there on the right.
What's those little origins that take that really tight turn into the building there?
Yeah, exactly. And they were probably hand pushed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I'd want that gig.
This is a funny question. Which scale is better? Heath, I think you're being funny with the question. The answer to the question is whichever one works better for you.
So true.
Right? I mean, there's no better answer, I think, than to a question like that.
The nice thing about HON 30, if you're modeling in that or you're predisposed to, is N scale track
Uh-huh.
will
Right.
work for HON 30. And of course, HON 3 track is readily available.
Well, let's put a little caveat to that.
Mhm.
N scale track, that's standard. Well, for two things. One, HON 3 and HON 30 is the same scale.
Right.
It's just the gauge of the track. And what you're saying, Tom, is right. You can use the N scale track because the gauge is correct, but the ties are wrong. So you
Right.
could use like prefab N scale track in hidden places or places that don't matter as much.
Yeah.
But out on the main, like here, you would want the correct
Tie
scale.
spacing.
Yeah, tie spacing and tie size. Otherwise, it just won't look right.
Right.
And of course, I deal with the exact same thing in ON 30 modeling,
Which is HO.
which
right?
is HO track. Yeah. No, I would be loath to use HO track on my layout.
Right?
That being said, I
Right.
actually have two curved turnouts that are
Well,
HO.
could you also use N scale mechanisms to kind of
Mhm.
scratch build modify engines for
That's what people do.
HON 30 layout too? So
Funny you should mention that, Murph. I was going to bring that up in a little bit.
okay.
Oh, he just stole your thunder.
Nah, not really. It's okay.
We're gonna
I
have
call it
missed
a
the
preview.
briefing beforehand.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have the fight after the show here.
Okay. Oh yeah, and this fellow's stable of locomotives is just amazing. By the way, his name is Brian Budite.
Budite.
Budite, Budeit. I thought, very cool stuff. His engine service area obviously still under construction, but that stable of locomotives looks so cool. I just had to get that shot in there.
Yeah, it's a nice display.
Yeah, it is. All right, now we move to an amazing piece of modeling. I tried practicing this. Anybody that speaks Spanish, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness right out of the gate. Ferrocarril del Maipo is the name of this railroad. This is in ON 30, and there's also some ON 18 in there as well in the mining areas. This is a by the name of Alberto Almarza, and grew up in Santiago, Chile, and his model reflects what he grew up with. He grew up in the 1970s.
Look at the clutter.
Yeah. Side note, he's also a musician. Do we see a theme here, gentlemen? He happens to be a classical flute player and has played and toured with major orchestras.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so
pretty
he's
cool.
A significant musician. They're just the posters on the fence.
I love that interurban or whatever the heck thing is on the left. That just looks so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, what is that? Is that like a streetcar?
it's
I
like a
can't tell.
streetcar. It's literally what that is, rail bus streetcar.
Yeah, like a tram or
Yeah,
trolley or whatever. That's cool.
but there's no overhead catenary, so it's self-powered.
Yeah.
It's a rail bus.
Yeah, rail bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I think they call those doodle bugs, don't they? The self-propelled but not electric.
I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a station scene. One of the things that caught my eye on this, I like the lamppost, by the way. I think that's really cool. And the fountain.
Uh-huh.
That's something you don't see modeled a lot. Yet when he was growing up, he saw it every day, so he built it into his model.
Oh.
And here's a cool harbor scene. I like the way he did the water. And the other thing that caught my eye about this scene was the statue
Yeah.
right off the edge. Apparently, they're big on statues back in Santiago, Chile. Sorry,
Chili. No, we eat that for lunch.
Chile we eat for lunch. Yeah,
Chile. Chile is the
Chile is
Yeah.
where Alberto grew up. And this is the last one I have from this layout. Another statue, by the way.
Two of them.
Did you ask him
Or
how
is
he,
that a person?
That's a statue. up
right.
there. Oh, on the right? That's a person.
Or more center?
Yeah, I think that's
I
a
can't
person.
tell. That looks like a statue. This right here next to the
Yeah,
lamppost. It
yeah.
kind of looks like a statue. I can't tell. Did you ask him how he made the monuments? I mean, they must be figurines, right? That he just spray painted gray or something, or whatever, greenish. I
Yeah.
can't tell from the picture.
Yeah, well, probably they're copper, maybe.
Right,
So they would have a greenish,
right. Weathered
tint to
copper.
them. Yeah, weathered
Yeah.
copper.
No, I agree with late night model railroad there. The backgrounds almost look like museum display paintings. And the other thing
Yeah.
is just such a different terrain than I'm used to seeing too.
Mm-hmm.
Back there, it's really nicely done.
And I asked him about that. He said that's what the mountains look like around his hometown.
Yeah.
I believe he also did the painting of the backdrop too.
Wow.
It looks like that building. I think it's against the backdrop. Is that like I'm blanking on the word.
A
The
flat?
cutout. Yeah, flat. Is that a flat? It looks like it is, isn't it?
The one on the rightish kind of looks that way.
Talking about the brick one back there.
Yeah, the brick one. It looks like a flat.
Could be.
Yeah, could be.
Wow, this is really cool.
Yeah. it's got
The fact that we're having a hard time telling
Yeah.
Right.
tells you.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Well, I
tells
mean-
right there.
Well, but that's one of those techniques, though, that people will use to disguise where the backdrop starts and where the layout ends.
Yeah.
How,
is to-
how wide was this?
This shelf was about 2 feet.
Yeah.
From where I was standing to the
It
backdrop.
looks like about, well, I don't know, about 50 miles.
Yeah. No, it does.
And it's so cool. It really almost dramatizes the fact that, yeah, a decent background painting will just, wow,
Makes a
tie the whole
difference.
thing together.
I would never want to reach in to re-rail a car on that back track,
Yeah.
but I could have easily reached it.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I probably would have wound up destroying that depot there or something. But,
You pull your arm out and have
I've
the
seen me
lamppost
do
stuck,
that.
yeah.
stuck to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Lamppost hanging off my elbow. Right.
Right. Your loosely fitting jacket. Take all the scenery out.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. We're back to being on the road again. This is another prototype tour. This is the Age of Steam Roundhouse, an incredible collection of locomotives. Curiously enough, not just steam. There's some diesels and some rolling stock as well. Again, a very highly recommended stop if you ever find yourself in the. This is in the Ohio area.
Huh.
So it was about, how far did I drive? Maybe about less than 2 hours from the Pittsburgh to where they are. The Age of Steam Roundhouse, by the way, is located in kind of a real open Amish area of Ohio. So
Oh.
farmland. I
Right.
saw a lot of bicycles. Curiously enough, I didn't see any of the classic horses drawing carriages.
Right.
I saw a lot of fellows people on bicycles. Very nice area.
Uh-huh.
Give me a good feeling to be there. I took a couple of shots of some things that are kind of interesting. On the left there, the coaling ramp. I thought that was really interesting. Coal would be dumped from hoppers through the grates and then hauled up on that bucket loader and dumped into tenders.
Oh, I see. Huh. That's an interesting way. Huh.
Yeah. And I've never seen anything like that coming up from underground as opposed to being dumped from on top.
Right.
So
It's a reverse tipple.
it's a reverse tipple. Exactly right. And water tank, well, in addition to the fact that it's just an awesome looking water tank, a little bit of a story behind that. When they wanted to construct that water tank, what they did is they recruited a bunch of the Amish workers around the area, and they all came together like you kind of see in the movies and stuff when they raise a barn. And they built the entire base for this water tank from about 8 a.m. to noon.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4 hours, they built the entire supporting structure for this tank. If I were to build a model of this tank, it would take me a week to build that supporting structure.
Right.
So these are some skilled workers. A little quick background about the Age of Steam Roundhouse. It was built by a gentleman by the name of Jerry Jacobson. Interesting past. Growing up as a little boy, he used to go hang out at the rail yards. And one day, an engineer saw him there, and I think he was, like 10 years old or something. Hey, little boy, would you like to get a cab ride? And, like 90% of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
90? I think you're underestimating.
Yeah, maybe. Well, some might be afraid because steam engines were loud and noisy. But anyway, so he had a cab ride. And from then on, he was hooked on steam engines.
Wow.
In fact, as he was hooked on railroading, he went on to, as a man, purchase a railroad. And it became the Ohio Central Railroad. And he turned that thing into a serious money-making proposition. So much so, in fact, that when he decided to retire, he walked away with quite a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
Don't ask for a figure because I don't know, but it was a lot. And he took a good portion of that money and he invested in this Age of Steam Roundhouse.
Wow.
He said, my mission in life is to preserve all these old locomotives and pieces of rolling stock. And he has, in fact, done that. He passed away a few years ago, but this legacy is with us because of his foresight and his interest. So now we're in the Roundhouse. I took photos of, there's a lot of stuff in there. You can always go online and look, but I took pictures of things that caught my eye. I thought were sort of unique and interesting. These are a couple of 040 switchers. The one on the left is a saddle tank.
Yep. That is so nice.
040T. So they carry their Eastern United States. Everything's coal driven, right?
Right.
So they carry their coal in a bunker. And then, Camelback. The only time I'd ever seen a Camelback in the back.
Camel black?
Yeah, Camelback. Camelback in the flesh was at Strasbourg. And at the time, this was many years ago, I didn't even know what it was. And I went home and looked it up.
So camelbacks were the cabs in the middle of the boiler.
The cab straddles the boiler. And this is an 040 Camelback, but as you can see, it has a tender. Those had to be really challenging locomotives to operate. And heaven forbid if anything should go wrong. Like if a driver brakes and shoots up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's a reason why they were kind of rare.
Yeah, that would explain it.
And so what? The fireman would be like off in the back.
Yeah, the fireman's in the back. You can see the overhang. Yeah, he's kind of out in the cold, literally.
How did they communicate? I wonder. I don't know that you'll know this, but how did the fireman and the engineer need to communicate?
Hand signals about all I could think of.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'd be giving some hand signals out there in the cold.
I know a couple hand signals.
Yeah, I think you guys do.
One on each hand.
Yeah.
The patented Murph double flip off.
You're firing this thing next time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh man.
I can see the conversation. You know, the engineer's like, man, it sure was hot up in the cab today. You know, I wish I could have been back there. Hey, you can try it sometime, pal, because it was freezing.
Really?
Compressed air.
Yeah, this thing is just so crazy looking. I had to, unfortunately, I couldn't get an angle to get a really good 3/4 shot. This is the best I can do.
Were you stuttering when you typed this? It's the air porter.
You'd think so, maybe, but that's actually the name of it. It's an 040 compressed air PPP Porter locomotive. Compressed air, obviously, it's a kind of locomotive you'd want to use where fire would be a problem, like, say, an explosive factory or something.
Right.
The PPP indicates that there are 3 tanks, and you can see that there are 3 tanks. You can barely see the one off to the left there. Kind of a fun fact about this, the Age of Steam Roundhouse acquired this locomotive with the intent to, compress up some air and stick it in the tanks and run it.
Right.
Turns out what it takes to move this locomotive is far more than their in-shop air compressors can deliver.
Yeah.
So they've never been able to run it.
Oh, I could see the Facebook commentary on this. It'd be like the whole EV thing. Well, what's your range on this? Where are you going to get it recharged?
But those are legit questions for something like this.
Yeah.
Because compressed air, I mean, you can only have so much pressure in a tank.
Right.
And as you're saying, I mean, there are environments where, I could see not wanting to bring in a steam locomotive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That's fascinating. Wow.
Did they have any information about the kind of stuff Murph is even asking? Like, how far would it go? And obviously, it had 3 tanks to extend the range, right? But and how did they fill the tanks? That's the other thing.
Well, they just hook it up with a compressor, an air compressor.
So they probably had a steam-driven compressor offsite.
Oh, yes.
To put the air in this thing, and it would then drive into the munitions plant factory,
right,
and do its work.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Obviously, they're not using these to draw mainline trains.
Right.
These are shop locomotives.
I was going to say probably just shopping around and that kind of stuff, get things out to a real switchyard, and wow,
yeah,
that's really cool stuff.
I'm not even sure I knew something like this existed.
Yeah,
I didn't. I'd heard of fireless cookers before, but they have a totally different outline. And I suppose you could call this kind of no, it's compressed air. It's not.
Yeah,
nothing's cooking.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Here's a couple of 060 switchers I thought were cool. I had a saddle tank earlier, so I was like, it's only fair to have a side tank. Locomotive here, 060T.
Yeah.
And then the one on the right is kind of a classic outline.
Like the little safety first sign there on the front of the pilot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a Navy locomotive, by the way. It was in the South Brooklyn section of the United States Navy and worked the naval yards there.
I was going to say, so they took it in the water. Never mind.
Yeah, that's it. They used it to move boats around.
Next slide.
Submarine.
Yeah, next
A
slide.
submarine. It never comes up. Sorry, Tom.
Is this thing working again? That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Once you do this, it works again.
Okay. Well, this is better. I like it. All right. Mogul 260 on the left side. I like the smoke box mounted headlight. Thought that was kind of unique.
That is neat.
Looks a little bit naked in the front, but that's kind of a unique look. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And then the Canadian National, these are both Canadian National, 10-wheeler, 4660. 10-wheeler is my favorite wheel arrangement, so I had to get a shot of that.
Those,
Wow.
yeah, never mind.
Okay.
I was gonna make a comment about those domes on the left side looking like something, but yeah.
Yeah, I did that math already. Probably my favorite locomotive, and I'm so bummed I couldn't get a great shot of it. And the only reason I purchased a book from the bookstore is to get a shot of this thing. And if it hadn't been copyrighted, I would have scanned it in and
Talking
used
about
it.
the number 9 there?
Yeah, I am. I'm talking about the McLeod River number 9.
What's that, a 262?
262
Yeah, that's a
Prairie.
Prairie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
clean looking engine.
What's that doing all the way back east? The McLeod 25 runs up at Oregon Coast Scenic now, and it's also, I think, a 262,
Yeah. It's its brother,
right? It's probably its older brother, I would imagine,
I would think.
or sister.
It's just a very cool looking locomotive.
Yeah.
It's a standard gauge engine,
Right.
but it's a smaller standard gauge engine, and as a result, I thought
It's
I
kind
like
of
this
funny
thing.
how the roundhouse scene makes you take fairly awkward photos of everything.
Oh, absolutely true, especially when they're nose to tail like that.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't get a 3/4 shot of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem with buildings, right? Any structure, like
Yeah.
you go to the Sacramento shops, and
Yeah.
it's hard to get good pictures of most of the equipment.
The one on the right is a Pacific 462. The unique part of this is that again, no pointer, is
Yeah.
that sort of tub, for lack of better words, up on the top of the
Right
engine.
behind the bell, right?
yeah. Any guesses, guys?
I'd expect air compressors to live inside that,
Not a bad guess. Anything, Murph?
I got nothing.
or a superheater.
Or a generator.
It's
Oh.
a feed water heater.
Oh,
Close
okay.
to the superheater, yeah.
Mhm.
Canadian style, right?
Oh,
In
wow,
America,
okay.
we use that cylinder that kind of looks like an eyebrow.
Right. Yeah.
In Canada, they use those tubs,
Huh.
for lack of better words.
do you know if there's any specific reason? Is it more effective in the cold weather to have it like set up like that?
I asked the fellow conducting the tour, and he didn't know.
Okay.
And if I were to conjecture, my conjecture might have to be along what you just said, John. Has to do with the weather conditions.
Huh.
Still very cool, very unique, very unusual. So I had to get a picture of it.
My next guess was going to be beer cooler, but hey.
A beer cooler. This is why we have you on the show, Murph.
Yeah.
Get highly specific information that's very accurate too.
If you don't know, just make it up.
This 280 consolidation, you guys.
I like the idea of a beer cooler.
That'd be great.
Sorry, Tom.
Does that
We're
sound-
ruining your show.
Not at all. I was going to say, as long as it'll keep the Dr. Pepper cold, that's my favorite.
Mr.
you go.
Pibb.
Mr. Pibb. Oh boy, that's what we need now is a debate between Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb.
In jokes. Yeah. There we go.
I shot this consolidation because it's just an unusually large consolidation. Unfortunately, a lot of my other pictures had people in them, and I tried to shoot so they wouldn't get. And this one, I would have loved to have had a person in just so you can get in a sense of scale. But if you look back at the cab, it kind of gives you a sense of how large this thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Joey thinks maybe it worked at the ore dock. Did it say? Did they have that information on it, or?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I'm trying to think.
It's a possibility given, the putting the weight on the drivers like that.
Would they need something? Well, that makes sense too, right? Because you get better traction.
Yeah.
And I would think at an ore dock, you'd be handling very heavy loads.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense. Although I wonder, it's a 280 though. So you would think that was made for the road. With
Joey
pilot.
was absolutely correct.
Joey's right.
Yeah.
Let's mark this.
knew?
Yeah, let's mark this down in the calendar. The day Joey was right about something.
There you go, Joey.
It was used on heavy iron ore trains in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
These ore trains were operated by the Marquette Iron Range to docks on
Yeah.
Lake Superior in the town of Marquette.
Wow.
So I'm glad I brought the
Good.
book.
Yeah. Good surmising, Joey. That, the level of insight is very good there.
See, when great minds get together.
Right?
Yeah.
In all seriousness, I make a joke about him being right about something. Come on now.
The 282 Mikado on the right side, it was Buffalo Creek and Golly. Okay, to be fair, I think I knew somewhere in the back of my mind that the Buffalo Creek and Golly was a real railroad, but my only exposure to it was through the modeling, the S-scale modeling of Brooks Stover. He's in quite a lot of magazines, is modeling the Buffalo Creek and Golly. And for that fact alone, I thought, I got to get a picture of a real BC&G Mikado.
I mean, it sounds like a fake name.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not as bad as Gory and Defeated, but
depending on how you say it, Buffalo Creek and Golly.
yeah,
Golly.
You got to say it right.
It's even GAU.
Yeah,
Golly.
Yeah. But yeah.
But there it is. Yeah, it's a real thing.
If it doesn't work, we'll do it this way. Then it will work. Hey, how about that?
Okay. When I was at the convention, I was privileged to go to a clinic. We'll talk briefly about clinics when we're done with this, but presented by Tony Custer.
Oh, cool.
And I think everybody pretty much knows what a fan of the nickel plate he is.
Yes, he is.
And I totally saw this and I thought, just in honor of Tony Custer, I'm going to take a shot
There you go.
of this nickel plate Berkshire.
Nice.
284.
That leading truck looks massive for some reason.
It
Two-wheel
really
truck in
does.
front.
Yeah.
Did the Berks were used? What were they used? Weren't they more of like passenger trains or passenger locomotives? Because look at the size of the drivers. You'd get speed out of that, but not a lot of torque.
Speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I would question that, and I'm going to look it up because I have it right here,
It doesn't
is
look.
because there's a two-wheel pilot truck, and they usually use four-wheel pilot trucks for passenger gear.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a passenger locomotive either. So, wow.
Yeah, high horsepower, high-speed freight hauling locomotive.
Oh, freight. Okay.
Yeah, to move refrigerator cars and perishables.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I think that's what this locomotive's mission in life was.
Heath is commenting because Heath actually knows Tony Custer. I believe he's been to Tony's layout and might have even done an op session there. I think he
Wow.
does op sessions.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I thought I
Very much does.
I saw pictures on Heath's Facebook. That's cool.
And yes, I also heard that he's building a narrow gauge layout. What I heard was it was a shelf layout, I think.
Oh, well, I'm sure Heath will comment on here because
Yeah.
he'll know something about that.
That was Heath that just,
Yeah, Humanity Junction or Human City Junction. That's Heath.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Right.
cool.
Okay, finally, for the age of steam engines, I took this one because it's a decapod. And decapods are cool.
We don't see those.
And you don't see them very often. Although it didn't, you correct me if I'm wrong, but did Bachman come out with a decapod?
I don't know.
I think they might have a model, a HO scale model of the decapod.
Heath, I guess dropping all the car cards is not a good move. I
Well,
can
I mean,
relate.
Right. It's one thing if you dropped them. It's something else if you got frustrated and threw them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't even know any of the, well, I was going to say I didn't even know any of these existed anymore. So, but that's what these museums are really good
Yes.
for. This is going to happen with all of the currently running stuff too. Like just recently, Caltrain out here on the peninsula
Mhm.
in our area, they actually sold all of their equipment to some agency in Peru.
Huh.
So the F-40s we thought were going to be dismantled or cut up or whatever.
Yeah.
And everybody was angling or wanting museums to angle to get them so that they could be preserved. Well, they're going to be working in Peru of all places. But someday people are going to say that, well, I remember the F-40s. Yeah, they're gone, right? There's none left. Now it's going to take a while because there's a whole bunch of F-40s everywhere. But that's what this reminds me of. Like someone had the presence to go, we need to keep this around. Like the only remaining cab forward anywhere is at the museum in Sacramento.
Right.
You can't even see one anywhere else. It's the only one left. And it's not like they weren't, somewhat prevalent at one time on the Southern Pacific. So,
oh man, yeah, they're like buffalo,
right? It's just weird. And to think, I guess the problem really is that something like this takes up a lot of space. So
it does. The question is, I somehow can't imagine an F-40 being something I really have that kind of romantic appeal of a cab forward or something like that.
I know, but you're saying that from your perspective.
I get that.
Right. Whereas if you grew up on the peninsula as a 10-year-old watching the F-40s,
I guess, yeah.
I mean, even now there are people belly aching about the fact that we're always do these electric trains and they all look the same. Well, it's true. They do all look the same because they are.
Well, all the F-40s look the same.
I was just going to say that the F-40s look the same too, but there's the nostalgia that goes with that look, whatever it is. So
yeah,
I firmly believe that there will be people who are like sadly aching to see F-40s again someday, decades from now. And there won't be any because we think of it as just commonplace, for lack of a better word, commonplace junk that's just, it's outdated now. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
It's one of my rants, I think.
It's a good
talking
rant.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good rant. I can't speak as to if this is the only example of a decapod in existence, but it certainly is rare. By the way, I believe it was Late Night Modeler issued a correction. He thought maybe it was BLI that made the HO scale model of the decapod.
Oh. So, yeah, it makes sense. That does seem like something they would make.
Yeah.
Just use the arrow. I think it'll work better.
It does work better.
Yeah. Here, I'll put this over here so you're not tempted by it.
Thank you. Get thee behind me, mouse. This is a S4, and it was a locomotive that pulled us. Excuse me, it's an SW9 that pulled us around for our mobile tour. We were on two different tours. There was a walking tour of the actual Roundhouse, which we just went through. Then there was a tour where this locomotive pulled passenger cars. And we got to see all of the rolling stock and diesel engines and stuff that are out in the yard. I like the fact they keep the steam engines inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it'll last way longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So ever since I went to the Nevada Northern in Ely and was engineer for a day, by the way, that was a lot of fun. I got to operate number 40. Shortly before it went in for its shopping that it's currently undergoing. The night before, I was walking around the Roundhouse, which is something they allow, which is amazing and very cool. And I looked up and I saw, an RS3. I think it was an RS3. And certainly it was an Alco, and it was an Alco RS. One of the earlier numbers could be 1 or 2, but whatever, the outline just really appealed to me. So all of a sudden I became enamored with Alcos. So I saw 2 and I thought, I got to get pictures of those.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this, Tom, but I believe that Nevada Northern has the largest collection in one place of RSs that actually run.
Yeah.
I might be wrong about that, but I remember hearing something, and usually when I have a little tidbit like that, it's not something I've just made up. I heard someone talking about it when I was there. And yeah, we got to see those inside. That's when I met the famous Dirt the Cat.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dirt the Cat.
Yeah.
I met him too.
Yeah. And I think it was, as a matter of fact, I think it was when we were looking at the RSs, suddenly I felt something on my leg and I looked down and it was Dirt saying hi.
saying hi and getting your pant leg dirty.
Nah,
Yeah.
he was just checking me out. But yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, those orange. Painted
Big
orange.
orange thing.
Yeah.
I think for some reason I want to say it's an R. At least one of them there is an RS4. I think, but whatever. I mean,
And
they
the-
look the same to me. I can't tell them apart.
And I believe it's within the last year or so they got another one.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that.
Which is a higher number. And off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what it is. But anyway.
I remember hearing about that. They were really excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
This was just a cool looking shot. Ohio Central. This, of course, is the railroad that Jerry Jacobson built to an amazing amount of success before he took the money and left.
So I can't read this. What is this one?
It's a B23-7.
Oh, there it is. GE. That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, the interesting thing is these are GEs that were rebuilt onto looks like Blomberg trucks. EMD Blomberg trucks.
The museum people refer to it as the Super 7
Because it's a -7.
because it's a -7.
Yeah.
Yeah, did that math really nice. I took a few shots of rolling stock, some things that I don't see very often, and I thought would be kind of cool. Railroad crane with an idler gone.
Nice.
Yeah, that was neat. And
Great details.
cabooses, we all love cabooses.
But I like the little bobber guy.
Yeah. So there's a conventional 8-wheel on the left and a 4-wheel bobber on the right.
And you got to like that name, Coshocton, Otsego, and Eastern.
What in the world?
And my hat is off to you for attempting to pronounce that, Murph. I wasn't even going to try.
Coshocton.
Coshocton.
Otsego.
Otsego, well, there's an Otsego, Michigan. So that I know that one's good.
Oh, well, that's probably where it's
See,
from.
You come from Michigan.
That's right.
No.
And it has a roof, not a roof. A roof.
A roof.
Yeah,
Right.
rough.
Roof.
Like that small cupola with just single window on the side.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One guy gets to sit up there.
Yeah, one guy alone.
Period.
What? One guy on each
Maybe
side?
there's a reason. We don't ask.
And just a few freight cars that I thought were somewhat unique. The box car is an insulated box car. It's not a reefer. It's a box car, but it's an insulated box car.
The Libby's
The
one?
Libby's,
Yeah.
yeah, the orange one.
Like the outside braced box car on the other lower side.
Yeah, the lower side's the outside brakes box car. Another U.S. Navy. They had an Army one too, but the white Navy, the Army one was green. Curiously enough, the Navy one was white.
Hmm.
That looked cool. I like covered hoppers. I think they're cool. So took a shot of that, and then the Hercules Powder Company tank car, which to me looked like a model tank car that was just blown up to full size.
I was going to say that's like the old school real blue box Athearn stuff that you always
Exactly.
used to get. You could only
Yeah.
get that kind.
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
was young.
So, all right, that's just neat. Oh, and speaking of shop cats, this is, sorry to say, not very creatively named cat, Felix.
Oh, the wonderful, wonderful cat.
Yeah, the wonderful, wonderful cat. He's the shop cat, and he was every bit as friendly as dirt.
Oh, good.
Well, he
right,
is-
right there in that shot, he kind of looks like Shop Cat barely approves of you being here.
Yeah, I know. He's kind of got that look.
Don't cats just look like that?
Yeah, cats tend to look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when they are open to you.
The most aloof creatures on the face of the planet.
But, just hanging out on the footboard,
but still chill.
He's
you
pretty
gotta let
chill
him
because
chill. Yeah.
we had a tour group of about 20 people
Oh,
going
yeah.
by him.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, you guys don't faze me.
Yeah. If you took a picture of our cat in a similar situation, there would be just a piece of wood in the middle thing.
Yeah.
'Cause she'd be somewhere else.
Exactly.
Otter Creek in Rio Grande says he does what he wants,
Yeah.
just like a cat.
Just
Yes.
like a cat. Oh, and of course, we were warned at the start of the tour, if you pet the cat, you're going to have to wash your hands
Oh,
because he spends his time, as clean as the shop looks, there's still a lot of dirt there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that was the Age of Steam Roundhouse. I did one other tour,
Oh wow.
the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. That's how folks got around. That trolley there is a trolley I got to ride on.
oh,
This museum is actually pretty amazing. It's got a lot of real estate. There's a lot of track,
Uh-huh.
and there's just a gigantic barn just loaded with trolleys. So it was a pretty neat experience. I took shots of a few interesting ones, things I thought were interesting. This was the actual Wexford Depot.
Oh wow.
It was moved to this site and restored, both exterior and, as you can see, interior as well. And it was kind of fun wandering around that thing. I like the color scheme, by the way, the
Yeah.
maroon and green. Very neat.
it looks good.
Yeah.
I believe railroads had paint schemes like that for their structures so that you would know what it was.
Yeah.
Like we think of the Southern Pacific out here, and there are all these big yellow things. Like,
Mhm.
well, that's the only thing in town that looks like that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the train station, well, it's that big yellow building by the tracks.
I think
Like
they call
what
that
else?
branding.
Yeah, right.
Early
Yeah.
20th century branding right there.
Right.
Yeah. And then we go inside the trolley barn. The Pittsburgh Railways on the left, almost all wood construction.
Oh, good thing it's inside.
Absolutely good thing it's
It would
inside.
have to be.
That's a very old trolley. I don't know if it's their oldest piece of rolling stock, but it's among the oldest ones. And then we have a boxcar traction switcher on the right, which kind of reminded me of the classic Tunerville trolley. But I think this was a switcher, so it just did work. Don't think it hauled people around.
This is reminiscent of our Western Railway Museum, where they have a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
kind of similar equipment inside big car barns. It seems like the trolley people or the electric people, I don't know where they get their funding, but they seem to do a lot better than the other places that have to leave their equipment out in the open because they can't afford, the real estate or the cost of whatever structure you would need to house their stuff inside. We're members at Niles Canyon Railway, and
Right. Uh-huh.
that's a classic example. The equipment is out in the open,
Yeah.
and the south side of every piece of equipment in that yard is bleached and weathered. If you look on the south side, it looks like a weathered bleached car. If you look on the north side, it looks new.
Yeah.
And they probably spend a lot of volunteer hours just maintaining the south side of the cars because they really need to be inside somewhere. And it's one of those things that they've actually been working on solving that problem. So I'm really looking forward to knowing that stuff is being protected.
Yeah, me too. This museum is doing very well. Their infrastructure is amazing. Their collection is, astounding.
Where is this again?
This is in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Let me see. I think I drove about 45 minutes to get there. That's how I kind of rate everything. So how long did it take to get there? To a 45-minute drive from where we stayed there in Pittsburgh. The Beaver Valley Traction Company on the left, another unique piece of equipment. It's a snow sweeper. You look underneath the front there, you've got these gigantic brushes. Yeah. And I'd never thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, of course.
Especially
It doesn't snow where I live.
And a lot of it was street running. I kind of wonder how they take care of any ice buildup and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, you would think that the slot, I guess, where the flange goes, it could get iced up in there. And I don't know, though. The question I would have, and maybe somebody on knows this, is if there were an ice buildup in that flangeway, I guess that's what that's called, would the equipment be heavy enough to just break it and go over it? Or could it cause a derailment?
I've seen some photos of turnouts where they've got like built-in, seems like torches or something.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, they have
So-
that out on main lines now.
Yeah.
And they have propane tanks
Yeah.
nearby to heat the.
So I'm kind of guessing they'd have to deal with something like that in here, unless they just use a lot of salt,
Yeah,
which Pittsburgh could do salt, but
it's true. Yeah.
farther north than that, you couldn't.
Yeah.
But would it cause a derailment though? That's my question. Now, on a turnout, of course, you have to heat it because it has to move,
Mhm.
and ice would absolutely.
I would guess it depends on the weight of the equipment going over it.
Yeah.
Even a light enough car could be a real problem.
I'm pretty sure they probably had track maintenance folks,
Yeah,
maybe with
Clearing.
with
torches.
torches going out there and
Yeah.
kind of preventing that from being a problem.
Well, we have the best viewers on YouTube. So
Mhm.
I'm going to ask that question. And if someone's watching this here now, type it into our live chat. But if you're watching this on the replay later, give us a comment in the comments section
Yeah.
because I'm very curious
You
to know the
it's
answer to
better
that.
than our guess.
Right.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
Or I'll just make something up.
That's right,
Sound
yeah.
like I know what I'm talking about. If you say it with confidence, they'll believe you, Tom.
Yeah, there you go. The Monongahela Valley Traction Company on the right. Again, just a kind of a unique looking piece of traction equipment. It's a steeple cab.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Did it have that same kind of hood on the back? We just can't see it, or was
yes,
it chopped? It did.
No,
Okay.
no, it from there it looks chopped, but it's not. It's
the same at both ends.
yeah, same at both ends.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a thick steeple, or I
it's a
guess,
very wide cab.
yeah. What would you call it? The distance this way, compared to like our steeple cabs up at Western Railway Museum.
Yeah,
it's
they're
very
narrow.
thick, right? Like, see how the distance from one cab to the other
Yeah, from one end to the other.
must have a huge, something in there, bit of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. So in addition to the layout tours and the display modules and the prototype tours, I had occasion to attend a few clinics,
Oh,
and I'm certainly not going to reproduce the clinics, but I'll just briefly mention a couple of the clinics I attended that I thought were interesting. There was a clinic on the Tuscarora Valley Railroad, which I mentioned earlier, ran basically in a valley parallel to the East Broad Top. The East Broad Top purchased that railroad in 1918, and it became its East Rock Spur.
oh wow.
So they made use of it. I took another clinic on modeling a mine site prototypically. I have a mine on my railroad, and I thought I could garner some useful information. I was amazed at the various structures that make up a prototype mine site. We've all seen pictures of them, usually scaled down, but when you start studying what real mines actually had and stuff, it's pretty insightful. He also handed out a great handout detailing the kinds and sides of various pieces of equipment, sizes of various pieces of equipment. Mentioned Tony Custer. I went to his clinic. He had a clinic called Narrow Gauge in the Nickel Plates Cloverleaf District. My only response to that was, narrow gauge? Who knew? I mean, narrow gauge in the nickel plate.
Right, yeah.
And this might have something to do with Tony's bent towards modeling a narrow gauge railroad. He was certainly knowledgeable about it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Martin Welberg. He's the scenery guy. He's got some really great scenery products. We actually had a chance to meet with him and talk with him, and he had a clinic. The watchword I came away with from him was, don't just watch, learn to see. It's one thing to watch something, it's another thing to learn to see.
What are you looking at?
Sydney's question.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, see, I was going to ask you this question later. How many more slides do we have?
That's it.
Oh, that's the end of it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why I'm just recapping with this.
should I make it go away?
Oh, here.
Oh.
Well, I was.
Oh, you
gonna-
have another.
I was saving this one for the very end.
Oh, we're going away.
Yeah.
It's going away.
It's
Well,
going away.
Let's leave that on though and ask you the question. Because I was going to ask you this question anyway. I was
Okay.
just waiting for you to finish talking.
All right.
And the question is, at least for me, she's being a little bit more specific about it. But I want to ask you just because have you been to NMRA conventions as well?
I have.
National NMRA?
Yes.
I would like to know how you would compare or contrast a national narrow gauge convention with a national, like an NMRA convention. What are
Interesting.
differences or
Mhm.
benefits, or what did you like more or like less about one or the other
Okay.
compared to?
The format of the narrow gauge convention historically, and this one fit right in there, is clinics are held in the morning and in the evening.
Right.
The hotel is, I mean, you can wander around it and you can look at the display layouts, but the afternoons are mostly for either excursions or layout visits.
Right.
Stretch your legs stuff.
Yeah. Now, of the 3 excursions I did, the Age of Steam Roundhouse, the Trolley Museum, and the East Broad Top. The East Broad Top was the only organized excursion that I went on. The Age of Steam Roundhouse was on my own, and the Traction or Trolley Museum was on my own as well. So I kind of did them at my leisure. I think on the day I went to the Age of Steam Roundhouse, I went to, actually I left in the morning to go do that. And then I came back to the hotel in the afternoon and took some clinics in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Same with the Traction Museum.
Right.
Trolley Museum.
Whereas compared to the traditional setup of like an NMRA convention was there's clinics all day.
Right.
So if you want to go to an excursion or a prototype tour, you're missing out on clinic content because
Yeah.
they didn't do them in the evening, right?
Correct.
Or if they did, it wasn't the same ones that you missed out on.
Yeah. And
So-
that's, but wait, the other thing that was nice about the narrow, although I think they did this in the national convention too, each clinic's presented several times.
Right.
You know, at least two times.
Sure, but
Right.
depending on what other stuff you want to look at, you might miss it every time that it's presented. So you'd have to miss something to catch something that you wanted to do. And
Right.
a national narrow gauge setup seems to eliminate that problem.
Totally
right?
eliminated because the home layouts were only open from like 1 to 5.
It's probably because those guys are attending the convention, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, or doing the clinics or both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I went to a couple of the layouts I went to, and the guy was saying, well, we'll be closing up soon. I'm going to get back and give a clinic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Nice.
Cool. I also attended a clinic on modeling the Gilpin tram, and the only reason I mentioned that is because the Gilpin tram was a 2-foot gauge
Mhm.
railroad, and this fellow models it in HON 30, and he does use N-scale track with ties appropriately spaced and mechanisms. So that's exactly what you were mentioning earlier,
Right.
Murph.
Huh.
And he's using Atlas N-scale shays.
Oh, cool.
All right,
And then
but-
building a structure.
yeah, well, I think he scratch built all the structures.
Right. Yeah. I mean, superstructure.
Oh, for the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's turned the Atlas Shea mechanism that's N scale standard gauge into the what is it? HON 30?
HON 30.
So he has to
Narrow
scratch
gauge.
build the HON 30 structure and stick it on top of that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right, but that's not the most amazing part.
Oh.
The most amazing part is locomotives are all dead rail.
Oh, cool.
So think about that for a minute.
in HO scale. What was he using for batteries?
HON 30.
Right. But that's HO scale. What's he
That is
using
HO scale.
for batteries though? I mean, they've got to be tiny, or is he
These
putting
teeny
like,
tiny batteries. He does a couple of his engines actually have battery cars.
okay.
Not surprising.
That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
But he had two locomotives at least that he told us about
Mhm.
that had batteries on board.
That's
he was
really
real creative about squeezing them in the roof of the cab, things like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was amazing.
That is amazing because it's pretty liberating going dead rail.
Mhm.
Knowing just from operating over at Ray's, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is perfect. There's never a problem with,
Oh yeah.
Do I need to clean the track? No,
Yeah.
just don't.
And speaking of dead rail, the last clinic I'll tell you about is I went to a dead rail clinic.
Uh-huh.
The benefits of going dead rail.
Who gave
The
that?
takeaway for me for that was dead rail seems to be to me to be more accessible than I ever thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's money. You have to invest a little bit in the infrastructure, battery charger, batteries, things like that. But the first locomotive might cost $300 around there,
Yeah.
and subsequent locomotives less than 200.
Wow. That's really cool.
to convert to dead rail.
Yeah.
And the actual conversion process, he stepped us through it in this clinic.
So
Didn't look as daunting as I thought it might
what kind
be.
of decoder were they using?
He favored the Blue Namis, the Soundtrack's Blue Namis. The beauty of a Blue Nami is you get
Bluetooth control.
Bluetooth control, right? And you get a DCC decoder
Right.
in one. So all you need to do is hook it up to power, right?
Wherever. Yeah, it was kind of funny. Many years ago when I had my old Tehachapi layout, there was a model rail radio. I think it was a 100th show or something like that. It was a 300th. Anyway, Duncan McRae came over to my house. He does Tam Valley.
Yeah.
And he sets this ON30 engine on my tracks and pulls out. I don't know if he pulled out his phone or whatever. He's just like running around. He was fine till he hit a tunnel portal that an ON30 loco wouldn't go through.
Oh, because you're an HO, right?
Yeah. But, it's just running right along. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
One of the really cool things about the Blue Nami is the fact that you don't need any, and this is something I really think that dead rail is the next leap, right, in enjoyment, right, for modelers, because there's no wiring needed whatsoever. I mean, inside the locomotive, but that's like, you don't have to run all your track drops and all that stuff, which is just a tremendous pain, right, to have to wire and feed everything. I mean, unless you like that kind of work, then more power to you, but that's not what I would want to do. I would much rather just put track down and say, okay, this is my railroad, just like in real life, how the railroads do it. And then the other thing is you don't need all the command station and boosters and all this other extra expense. Because I see these kind of comments on social media all the time, like, oh yeah, well, Blue Nami is too expensive. It's like, what are you kidding? Now, unless you have 500 locomotives that you need to put them in, and frankly, you can't run that many locomotives on one.
Honestly, it would keep me from moving that way right now, just given the number of locomotives I have.
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, think about it. Never having to put in an auto reverser on a layout. Oh, baby, yes.
Sure. Well, and I got to say, there was a layout. Actually, again, sorry, I'm not trying to self-promote here, but there's a layout video on this channel. That's the black and white layout.
Oh,
that's
yes.
Steve Rediker. That's an ON30 layout. And he went with ON30, even though what he models was not narrow gauge. It was a standard gauge. It's a Hetchy, right? And when you listen to him talk about it, he says exactly really what I just said, which is, hey, I don't want to wire stuff. I don't want to have to go under the layout and deal with soldering and all this other nonsense that I call it nonsense. It's required, right? The way people currently do things.
Yeah.
With dead rail, it's all gone. He says, I want to run trains. So I just, put batteries in and right.
So some people that actually do hardware that I know have talked often about, I've also asked, well, why can't you have a powered section of track and have a dead rail locomotive recharge itself?
That's what Joey said.
Yeah. Just brought that up.
And I was cautioned that recharging and running at the same time creates real hard problems for the thermals of the battery and various things like that. I don't know. I'm a software guy, but I trust their word for things.
Yeah.
So that's the only part about that I'd caution against.
The telling point, or not the telling point, the surprising point for me in terms of recharging is they have a magnetic recharging capability, which means, you don't have to plug in a plug.
Well, that'd be like
You could just run it over a portion of track where you just stop it there. Is that what you're in?
Well, no,
implying?
it's a magnetic plug. So basically,
it'd be like charging an Apple Watch.
exactly.
Oh, okay. So it snaps on and doesn't
You know,
plug
like
in.
that, right? For your laptop.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool because, it's like, okay, you got to dig in a jack and, all that, and things can go wonky. The plug can go bad. So I thought the magnetic charge cord was a pretty cool thing.
Well, there was a layout again that we covered, and it's another one of those layouts that's now, as far as I know, gone, which was Steve Hayes' Western Pacific, right, layout. And Steve Hayes had some equipment. I don't remember what, I think it was an RDC or something like an RDC that
It was an
that
RDC.
was
I
RDC
remember.
that was battery powered, and he did exactly what we're talking about. He had a section of track which he would park it on, and it would charge it. Now, I don't think he charged it as it ran. I think he just parked it there whenever it wasn't running.
Yeah.
And the track did charge it, the battery. So it can be done, and I've seen it done. I don't remember on the video if he explained much of the technical stuff behind it. But this video was made at least 5 or 6 years ago. So it's the technology to do it has been around. It's just a matter of finding a way to incorporate it into your layout. So anyway, well,
Okay.
we are actually,
This is great.
yeah, I think we're
a little bit over time.
we're a little bit over
we
time.
got started a little bit over time too. So,
That's
it
true.
balances out.
That works out. So
Yeah.
I need to put my glasses on so I can see the controls on the computer here. So I do want to, while I'm doing this, I want to thank everybody for being here, especially you, Tom, since you gave us
Tom,
such a
thanks a lot.
great presentation with so much information. I wasn't expecting. Well, I wasn't really expecting. I didn't have any specific expectations. I wasn't expecting you to be so smart, Tom.
This stupid musician, what would he know?
Right? Well, but you're not. But you're not the drummer. So,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's the old joke. What do you call the guy that hangs around a bunch of
A
musicians?
drummer.
Right? But that's not true. It's the singer because he doesn't play anything.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Coming from someone who was a drummer.
You can get some feedback on that one, maybe.
Hey, I'm just saying, what do they play? Anybody has it. I mean, you can play your voice. Doesn't mean you're any good at it. I know I'm not. But anyway, and also, of course, Murph, thank you for coming once again. I really look forward to this once a month. We get to hang out and talk trains, and it's usually accompanied by a really nice lunch at an Italian place that we all enjoy a lot.
So true.
Yes.
Yes.
What we should do is try to get them to sponsor the show so that we could get
We should just have a big round table
Exactly.
at the restaurant.
Oh, I wonder if they have an internet connection there.
I don't know. It'd be kind of fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people would be watching us eat. It's messy. Yeah. I don't know if that would work.
Wine,
So
Yeah.
Wine,
That's,
etc.
video right there.
Appetizers.
extra wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wine.
Yeah. Would you like some more wine, sir?
Yeah,
How many?
that'd be good.
How many bottles do you want?
I would have settled for a second glass at lunch, but hey,
It was a missed opportunity for a better sale and a better
somebody
tip.
Missed a higher tip today.
Yeah. Anyway, I also wanted to thank our moderators in the chat for keeping things on track, pun intended, as always. And I wish I could tell you what's going to be coming out this Saturday, but I just don't remember. I know that we have either a product spotlight or an N-Scale Friday episode on Friday, and I'm sure that there's some really good content coming out on Saturday, because Saturdays typically are the days when the featured content comes out. And by
Are you
all,
beginning to forget things now? Isn't
what
that
was I
thing?
talking about?
Yeah,
What was I
yeah.
saying?
Okay.
And the other thing I want to mention just briefly is if you enjoy the content, to go check out the Patreon. And if you appreciate the content, consider subscribing on Patreon, because Patreon members get
Stylish hats.
some people, only the special ones, get stylish hats and wine glasses. And others, I'm sorry, didn't get the stylish hats or the wine glasses.
Yeah, maybe you will know.
And he made me come in the back door too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Couldn't
right.
come in the front door.
Yeah, we had the gate open on the side of the house for Tom to come in today. But no, I want to mention, because Patreon members get ad-free content, and it's usually weeks and sometimes even months in advance of when the general public gets to see the stuff. So a lot of the layout tours, like Frank Markovich's narrow gauge layout,
0-3.
you're not going to see that for probably till July or something, but people on Patreon will get to see it a lot sooner, like as soon as it's edited.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks you guys. And we will catch you all next time, either on podcast or Talking Trains or whatever. So see ya.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Oh, okay, good. It's gone. Oh, no, it's not gone. What's going
still
on? We're still
online.
here.
Hi.
Let's try that again. Well, I always wait and I put the bloopers at the end. And
This is
today
it.
Today you got a live blooper, unrehearsed. Anybody who's still watching, wow, you really got a treat today.
I sure hope that mic was muted for most of that
Yeah.
discussion.
We're really out now. Bye.
See y'all later.